The rain had started before dawn, light but steady, the kind that made the town feel smaller and quieter. Claire Morgan drove to work with the radio off, listening only to the sound of water against the windshield. She was used to mornings like this. At 46, she had learned how to move through the day without expecting surprises. Life had taught her to plan, to be careful. To keep her heart calm, she parked near the small cafe on Main Street, the one she visited when she wanted a moment to breathe before work. The bell above the door rang as she stepped inside. Warm air wrapped around her, carrying the smell of coffee and baked bread. The place was half full, mostly regulars. Claire ordered her drink and waited. That was when she noticed the man at the corner table. He sat alone, shoulders slightly tense, hands folded around a mug that had gone untouched. He was not old, but not young either. Early 30s, maybe. His hair was dark and neat, his clothes simple. What stood out was his face. He looked like someone who had been holding things in for too long. Claire did not stare. She never did. But she noticed him the way people notice something that does not belong yet still feels important. When her name was called, she stepped forward. At the same time, the man stood up to pay. As he reached into his pocket, coins slipped from his hand and scattered across the floor. The sound was sharp in the quiet cafe. A few people looked over, then looked away. The cashier waited, polite but clearly in a hurry. The man bent down, gathering the coins with quick, embarrassed movements. His face flushed. He stood up again and realized he was still short. "I'm sorry," he said, voice low. "I must have counted wrong." Claire felt something tighten in her chest. She didn't think. She didn't plan. She stepped forward and placed a bill on the counter. "I've got it," she said. The man looked up, surprised. His eyes were a clear gray, thoughtful and cautious. "You don't have to do that." "I know," Claire replied, calm and gentle. "It's okay." There was no drama in the moment. No big smiles, just a simple exchange. The cashier took the money, handed over the receipt, and moved on. The man let out a slow breath. "Thank you," he said. "Really?" Claire nodded. "You're welcome." She expected that to be the end of it. A small kindness done and finished. That was how things usually went. But when she turned to leave, the man spoke again. "Would you like to sit?" he asked. Just for a minute, Claire paused. Her first thought was no. She was careful with her time, careful with people. Gotcha. Had learned that years ago. Then she looked at him again, not with curiosity, but with understanding. "All right," she said. They sat across from each other. The space between them was small but respectful. He introduced himself as Ethan Walker, recently moved from Seattle for work. Claire gave only her name, nothing more. She preferred to let things unfold slowly. They talked without effort. Not about deep things at first, just everyday life. Ethan spoke about learning the streets, about missing the sound of the city at night. Claire talked about the town, about how quiet could be comforting once you got used to it. Time moved faster than she expected. Ethan did not flirt. He did not ask personal questions. He listened carefully, as if every word mattered. Claire noticed that. She also noticed how tired he seemed, not physically, but emotionally. When she stood to leave, Ethan smiled. "I'm glad you sat down." He said, "So am I," Claire replied, surprised by how true it felt. She walked out into the rain feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. That night, she told herself not to think about him. She made dinner, folded laundry, read a few pages of a book she had already finished once before. Still, her thoughts returned to the cafe, to the look in Ethan's eyes when he said thank you. The next morning, she went back. She told herself. It was habit. She always went there when it rained. That was true. But she arrived earlier than usual, and when she saw Ethan already seated, she felt a quiet warmth spread through her chest. They smiled at each other like people who shared a secret. This time, conversation moved faster. Ethan spoke about his job, about how starting over felt both hopeful and terrifying. Claire listened, offering only what was needed. She didn't try to fix anything. She knew better. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of something, Ethan said. And I don't know whether to step forward or turn back, Claire stirred her coffee. Sometimes, she said, standing still is part of the process. He nodded, as if that made sense. Over the next few days, their meetings became quiet routine. Coffee before work, short walks during lunch. So they talked about books, about music from the 90s, about places they had loved and left behind. Claire felt a pull she had not felt in years. Scared her, but it did not overwhelm her. She knew herself now. She knew what lines not to cross. She noticed the age difference, of course. She did not ignore it. She accepted it as part of the truth. She was older. He had lived longer. She had learned to carry her feelings without letting them rule her. One afternoon they walked by the river. The water moved steadily, calm but strong. Ethan stopped and looked out over it. I didn't think I'd meet anyone like you here, he said. Claire didn't ask what he meant. She understood. I didn't think I'd want to, she replied honestly. He smiled. But there was something unsure in it. That night, Claire lay awake thinking about kindness. About how easy it was to confuse kindness with hope. She had done that once before, long ago. It had cost her dearly. She promised herself she would not make the same mistake again. Days passed. Their connection deepened, but carefully. They never touched, never crossed into words that asked for more. The feeling was there, quiet but strong, like a river beneath ice. Then one morning, Ethan didn't show up. Claire waited longer than usual. She told herself not to worry. People got busy. Life happened. Still, the empty chair across from her felt louder than words. Later that day, her phone buzzed. I'm sorry, Ethan's message read. I needed time to think. Can we talk tonight? Claire stared at the screen. Her heart beat faster, but her face remained calm. Yes, she typed. We can. That evening, they met again by the river. Sky was clear now, stars faint. But present. Ethan spoke first. I didn't plan for this, he said, for how much you would matter. Claire listened without interrupting. I'm not asking for anything, he added quickly. I just needed you to know. Claire took a slow breath. She felt the weight of years behind her, the lessons she had paid for with pain. I knew I was older now, she said softly. That means I choose differently. Ethan watched her closely. This started as an act of kindness, she continued. And kindness has rules. It should never take more than it gives. Silence settled between them. Not cold, but thoughtful. Ethan nodded. I think I understand. Claire wasn't sure if he truly did, but she hoped he would. In time, as they parted that night, she felt the ache begin. Not sharp, not cruel, but deep. The kind that comes when you care and still choose restraint. She walked home knowing that something important had started, and that its shape was not yet clear. And somewhere between the rain, the coffee, and the quiet words, Claire understood. One simple truth: kindness can open doors, but wisdom decides how far you step inside. The following morning, the sky was pale blue, a soft light filtering through the thin clouds. Claire woke early, the memory of the river the night before still vivid in her mind. She thought about Ethan, about the way his eyes lingered when she spoke, the careful way he listened. It was unusual, this feeling that had quietly settled over her life, unexpected yet not unwelcome. She dressed quickly, pulling on a simple sweater and jeans, and made her way to the cafe. It was a habit, yes, but now it felt like something more, a thread that connected her to him. Even before they spoke, Ethan was already there, seated near the window, looking out at the street. He waved when he saw her, and she smiled back. Their greetings were simple, no grand gestures, just a shared acknowledgement that their small meetings mattered. Claire ordered her coffee, and he ordered his usual. Then they sat together at a table. In the corner, conversation flowed easily, faster than before. They spoke about the little things first: the weather, work, the subtle changes in town. Ethan mentioned a bookstore he had discovered near the river, one that carried old editions of novels she loved. Claire nodded, her interest genuine, but measured. She had learned to appreciate people without rushing to claim them, without letting longing overtake judgment. Ethan noticed her carefulness, and he respected it, even if it left a quiet tension in the air. A sense of words and feelings unspoken. "I like the quiet here," Ethan said, looking around the cafe. "It's different from Seattle." Claire smiled softly. "Different can be good," she replied. "Sometimes we need different." Ethan nodded. He seemed thoughtful, almost hesitant, as though he was considering how much to reveal. "I wasn't sure I'd meet anyone like you here," he said. Claire tilted her head, meeting his eyes. She understood what he meant, even if she didn't respond immediately. She had felt the same. There was something unusual about their connection, a mix of comfort and caution, like meeting a familiar stranger. Over the next few weeks, they continued to meet, their routines slowly expanding. Coffee mornings became longer. Walks along the river stretched into afternoons. They discovered shared interests, books, music, simple pleasures. Claire appreciated the calm of these moments, the sense that they existed without pressure, without expectations. Ethan, in turn, seemed to grow lighter around her, more relaxed. He laughed more freely, his smiles reaching his eyes. One evening, they walked along the riverbank, the sky painted with streaks of pink and orange. The air was cool but not cold, carrying the faint scent of water and fallen leaves. Ethan stopped and looked out over the river, his hands resting on the railing. "You've made this easier than I expected," he said quietly. "Being here, meeting you. It's not complicated, but it matters." Claire stood beside him, letting the quiet settle. "Kindness matters," she said softly. "Sometimes. It's all we can offer, but it can mean more than we realize." Ethan glanced at her, eyes searching. "You're not just kind," he said. "You're careful, too. Thoughtful. You make people feel safe." Claire's lips curved into a small smile. "I've learned," she said. "Age teaches you to hold yourself steady even when things feel uncertain." The conversation paused, the river moving steadily beneath them. Claire felt a familiar ache, one she recognized from long ago. The ache of wanting without pressing, of caring without demanding. She understood that relationships were not just about closeness, they were about timing, about readiness, about respect for what each person carried. Over the following days, Ethan mentioned a possible job opportunity in another city, one that could mean a fresh start for him. Claire listened without interruption. Her first instinct was to feel protective, to ask him to stay, but she did not. She had learned that true kindness sometimes meant letting go. "I think you should go," she said quietly after he finished explaining. Ethan's shoulders slumped slightly. "I hoped you'd ask me to stay," he admitted. Claire reached out, placing a steady hand on his arm. "I knew I was older now," she said softly. "So I did this act of kindness, letting you choose your path even if it doesn't include me." The moment stretched between them, heavy with unspoken feelings. Ethan looked at her, the gratitude and longing clear in his eyes. They hugged, a long, careful embrace, holding the warmth without pushing further. It was not about passion or urgency, it was about acknowledgement, about honoring what they shared without forcing the future. Weeks passed, Ethan prepared to leave, Claire helping him in quiet ways, small gestures of support that cost her little, but mattered greatly. Their final walk along the river was silent at first, the water reflecting the fading light of the day. Then Ethan spoke. "I'll never forget this," he said. "The way you made me feel. The way you listened without judgment. That matters." Claire nodded, a small smile touching her lips. "It mattered to me too," she admitted, "but sometimes kindness is enough." They parted at the edge of the town, standing on the familiar street where their first coffee together had happened. Ethan turned once, giving a final wave before walking away. Claire watched him go, feeling the ache of absence but also the quiet pride of having acted with wisdom and heart. She knew that letting someone go, even when it hurt, could be the greatest kindness of all. That night she walked home alone, the cool air brushing against her face. The town was quiet, the lights soft, and for the first time in a long while, Claire felt a deep sense of peace. She had opened her heart, not recklessly, but thoughtfully. She had chosen kindness over desire, understanding over fear. Somewhere, in another city, Ethan would carry that kindness with him. And somewhere, Claire would carry the memory of him. A gentle reminder of how it felt to connect deeply, even briefly, with someone who mattered. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and let herself feel the ache fully. It was a clean ache, a beautiful one, the kind that came from knowing you had loved wisely. In the silence, she whispered to herself, "I did the right thing. I chose kindness, and that is enough." In the following days, life resumed its quiet rhythm. Claire went to work, met neighbors, tended her small garden, and walked along the river alone. The presence of Ethan lingered like a faint echo, a reminder of the connection that had passed through her life. 'Twas not loss, 'twas memory, hope, and the subtle joy of knowing she had acted with integrity and heart. Sometimes she caught herself smiling at little things he had said, at the way he had noticed the small details in life, at the warmth of his laughter. Other times she felt the sting of absence, the recognition that some people are meant to teach us even if they do not stay. Months later, the town saw Ethan in fleeting glimpses on trips or returning briefly. Each time their eyes met, sharing the same quiet understanding. They did not speak of what could have been. Words were unnecessary. Their bond had been formed in silence, in careful kindness, in respect for one another's space and choice. Claire knew that age had taught her this lesson. Love and kindness are not always about possession or closeness. They are about presence, about giving what is possible without taking more than is offered. And in that presence, in that careful attention, she had discovered something rare connection that was full, deep, and entirely her own, even as it existed in moments that would not last forever. By the river, in the cafe, in the quiet streets of her town, Claire carried that lesson. She had acted with intention, guided by wisdom, shaped by experience. She had opened her heart without losing herself. And though life would continue with its routines, challenges, and occasional surprises, she walked forward with the calm knowledge that kindness, when offered freely and wisely, could create beauty. Even in fleeting moments, Claire's story, her choice, her act of kindness, became part of her own quiet strength. She knew the world had many fleeting connections, many lessons wrapped in brief encounters. But she also knew that each act of genuine kindness left a lasting mark, invisible yet powerful, shaping not only the lives of those touched, but also her own. And in the silent hours of the night, when the world was still and the river whispered in the distance, Claire Morgan felt the soft satisfaction of having loved thoughtfully, acted wisely, and left the door open for whatever beauty the future might hold.